Diary of a Man in Despair. Friedrich Reck. June 1942.
In Stuttgart to see my publisher, I met an old lady who survived the sinking of the Titanic 30 years ago, a catastrophe shrouded in obscurity to this day. This lady told me about an incredible thing that happened while the boat was sinking, and as the water was already lapping at the promenade deck and the boats were being let down into the water. At this very moment, the ship's stewards were going about the deck carrying trays full of sandwiches, and murmuring, "May I offer you a sandwich?" Never failingly good-humored, remaining on duty to the end. Here, in a place where one would hardly look for it, a representation of the soul of an Englishman, and with it an episode worthy of Joseph Conrad. I have been with my dying Clemens von Frankenstein, whose cancer is in its terminal stage. I went with him for a consultation with my doctor, since Clemens imagined it might do some good. This proud man, who only a short time ago delighted in his own physical power, and exuded strength, and who today could not get into the car without my help, he sat in a waiting room filled to suffocation with fat bourgeois and hysterical actresses and the pitiless light of a burning hot day. Naturally, this consultation could have only fictive value. Naturally, he knew that his condition was hopeless. Naturally, it was all a little comedy he was playing, conceived out of tenderness and consideration for his wife, in an attempt somehow to allay her desolation a little. There we sat, playing out to the end our macabre roles, and then had breakfast with Walter Spiel, who did not recognize Clé, so much had he changed. We knew that we had come to the end of a friendship of 30 years, that we were sitting opposite each other for the last time. Never again to enjoy those analyses of yours, never again to be amazed by the contrast, at first sight, the impression of cool poise, and then the gentle heart that lay behind, most ready to help. We went to see Clé's cousin, Erwin Schonborn, who is a patient at the Neuwittelsbach clinic. His letters seemed to indicate that he was not seriously ill. Instead, I found to my horror that he is terribly changed, shrunk to a skeleton, marked with death as Clé is. Now with Clé, formerly a partner in conversation that was generally ironic, that tended even to cynicism, the conversation took on a tone I had never heard before. There was a note of gentleness in the talk of the two men, a kind of brotherly consideration, a delicate and melancholy opening of the heart peculiar to those bound by blood who now are separating for life. I am going to lose both of them. They were my companions and my friends, they represented for me the ideal of the kind of man almost extinct in Germany. Far-seeing men, men of the world, large-hearted, great-spirited friends of all that is human, my fellow workers, I hoped, in the task of building a new Germany, new from the ground up. Outside, the pitilessly full life of summer, and the harsh sounds of the city we loved so much, which now has become so strange. Inside, the dying men, and the gentle voice of suffering and of hopelessness, sad and heavy recollection of the past skiing adventures, past discussions, past festivities, all our shared experiences. I went home, deeply alone, unutterably impoverished. It is as though all the light has gone out of the world. It is as though our lives are an ebbing tide that recedes farther and farther down a sandbank, and you think that the tide will never come back again, never in your life. It is as though the sun has become smaller, as though, one by one, the stars are going out. There are those blessed ones who understand the mystery of God's dealing with his children, Joseph Conrad, in The End of the Tether, in the story of the martyrdom of Whaley, the blinded sea captain, Joseph Conrad, whose work, I need scarcely add, has been placed on the index by her Joseph Goebbels. But I, on this summer night, hot as cobalt, have lost myself. The distant worlds are enclosed in icy separation. The throne of God is even farther away, and with it the great book of wisdom, whose pages my friends will soon be reading. My life is loneliness, and the growing awareness that it must be so, loneliness among a people whom Satan has overcome, and the awareness that only by suffering can the future be changed. Isolation, with one last chance given one in this life, the chance to affirm truth by one's death. But you, who are still living in the world of yesterday, that comfortable world, that world where sound still exists, do you know anything, really, about this blackness in which we live? Do you know that the way to the absolute is through the deep veil of suffering? And do you know that only out of our passion and out of our suffering can the seed be sown for the new day?